So, a man in Wales spent 12 years trying to dig up a landfill to recover a hard drive worth $742 million in Bitcoin. He just gave up. The landfill is being turned into a solar farm, with his Bitcoin underneath it. A programmer in San Francisco has $820 million in Bitcoin sitting on a USB drive on his desk. He has 2 password attempts left. After that, gone forever. A team of hackers offered to crack it for him. He politely refused. And tens of thousands of people who lost their Bitcoin in a 2014 exchange hack, who spent 11 years grieving, divorcing, even taking their own lives, are finally getting their coins back. Some of them are not alive to receive them. Welcome to C Daily Buzz. Today, 3 of the most painful lost crypto fortunes in history. Newport, Wales, 2009. A young IT worker named James Howells mines 8,000 Bitcoin on his laptop. At the time, Bitcoin was worth almost nothing. He saves the private key to a hard drive, throws it in a drawer, and forgets about it. In August 2013, his then-girlfriend cleans out the office. She finds the old hard drive, mistakes it for trash, and tosses it in a bin liner. The bag goes to the Newport Household Waste and Recycling Center. The hard drive ends up buried in the Docksway landfill under thousands of tons of garbage. By 2026, that hard drive holds approximately $742 million in Bitcoin. For 12 years, James Howells tried everything to get it back. He proposed digging it up himself. Newport City Council said no. Environmental laws, contamination, taxpayer cost. He offered the city 10% of any recovered Bitcoin. No. He developed an industrial excavation plan, AI-assisted scanners, magnetic conveyors, dump trucks on a strict schedule. He offered to fund the entire operation himself. Newport said no again. In May 2024, he sued for £600 million. In January 2025, the High Court dismissed the case on summary judgment. The judge ruled that the moment the drive entered the landfill, it became council property under UK waste regulations. He appealed, even brought AI-assisted legal arguments to the Court of Appeal. Rejected. In July 2025, he made his most desperate move. He offered to buy the entire landfill, take on 25 to 30 million pounds of post-closure environmental liability, personally, just for the right to excavate. The council ignored him, and then sent him a bill, £117,000 in legal fees from defending against his lawsuit. Until he paid that bill, no further conversation. Howells called it financial coercion. The council didn't respond. Then, in early 2026, after 12 years, James Howells gave up. The Newport landfill is being closed during the 2025-26 fiscal year. It's being capped, sealed, and converted into a solar farm. There will be photovoltaic panels on top of $740 million in Bitcoin, generating clean electricity for the next 40 years, while the most expensive piece of digital plastic in human history sits buried beneath them. His final statement: the 8,000 Bitcoin are legally mine under UK law. The balance can be verified by anyone, anywhere, at any time. He's right. The Bitcoin still exists on the blockchain. He just can't reach it. Ever. San Francisco, 2011. A German programmer named Stefan creates an animated explainer video called "What is Bitcoin?" and gets paid in Bitcoin. 7,002 BTC to be exact, worth a few $1,000s at the time. Thomas is careful. He buys an IronKey, a military-grade encrypted USB drive, the kind used by US intelligence agencies. He sets a long password. He writes it on a piece of paper. He stores the paper somewhere he thinks is safe. In 2012, he loses the paper. He tries his most likely passwords. Wrong. He tries variations. Wrong. By 2021, he had used 8 of his 10 allowed attempts. 2 attempts left. The IronKey has one cruel feature. After 10 consecutive wrong tries, it permanently encrypts itself. Even Kingston, the company that makes IronKey, has confirmed there is no master password, no backdoor, no factory reset. By May 2026, those 7,000 BTC are worth approximately $820 million, sitting on a USB drive on his desk, 2 attempts away from being deleted forever. Then, in 2023, a twist nobody saw coming. A Seattle cybersecurity firm called Unciphered cracked the IronKey's protection. They reverse-engineered the chip itself. CT scanner, nitric acid, microscopic laser to extract the Atmel chip that holds the cryptographic secrets. After 8 months of work, Unciphered could simulate 200 trillion password attempts per device. They successfully unlocked over 1,000 IronKeys without destroying them, demonstrating the technique 3 times for Wired, on the exact same model Stefan Thomas owns. So Unciphered reached out to him. They offered to save his Bitcoin, any commission structure he wanted. Stefan Thomas politely declined. His reasoning? He had verbal agreements with 2 other recovery teams, a firm called Naxo and an independent researcher named Chris Tarnowski. Neither had actually started work. One reportedly wouldn't begin without an upfront salary, but Thomas refused to break those agreements, even for a working solution. Quote from Wired magazine, "We cracked the IronKey, now we have to crack Stefan. This is turning out to be the hardest part." As of May 2026, the IronKey still sits, locked, untouched. Thomas has said publicly he'd rather wait for some future technology, maybe quantum computing, than let someone else into his vault. In a 2021 New York Times interview, he described his daily life. Quote, "I would just lay in bed and think about it. Then I would approach the computer with a new tactic, and it would fail, leaving me feeling desperate again." The estimated total of Bitcoin permanently lost in stories like this, wrong passwords, broken drives, forgotten seeds, is around $100 billion. Roughly 1 in 5 Bitcoin ever created. Visible, verifiable, untouchable. Stefan Thomas owns nearly 1% of all lost Bitcoin in history, and the team who could open it for him is in Seattle, waiting for a phone call that may never come. This is the most painful one. February 2014. Mt. Gox, based in Tokyo, was the largest Bitcoin exchange on Earth. At one point, it processed approximately 70% of all Bitcoin transactions in the world. Then, overnight, it collapsed. A series of long-running internal thefts and security failures resulted in the loss of approximately 850,000 Bitcoin. At the time, that was worth about $470 million. Today, it's worth roughly $94 billion. The CEO, Mark Karpelès, was later convicted in a Tokyo court for falsifying financial records. But the real story is the 24,000 creditors who lost everything. Some were retirees. Some had borrowed money to buy Bitcoin. Some had put in their entire savings. For the next 11 years, those creditors waited. They watched Bitcoin's price climb. $500, $5,000, $20,000, $60,000, $100,000. Every year, the money they could not access kept multiplying. The Bitcoin they had lost in 2014 became more valuable, exponentially, while their lives stayed exactly where they were. For some, the wait was unbearable. Reports allegedly link multiple suicides among Mt. Gox creditors to the long bankruptcy proceedings. Marriages failed. Many forced themselves to mentally write the Bitcoin off, to protect their sanity. Mt. Gox managed to recover about 142,000 BTC out of the 850,000 that vanished. Those coins sat in a bankruptcy trustee's wallet, waiting for the Japanese legal system to decide who got what. Then in July 2024, 10 years and 5 months after the collapse, the trustee, Nobuaki Kobayashi, finally began distributing the recovered Bitcoin. Real coins, real wallets, back to the original creditors. Suddenly, people who had buried this loss in their mental graveyard were getting messages. Your Bitcoin is back, and it's worth 250 times what you put in. Imagine that for a moment. You lost $40,000 in 2014. You spent a decade thinking it was gone. You moved on, you rebuilt, and then your wallet pings, and you're a millionaire. But not everyone made it. Some creditors had passed away during the 11-year wait. Their families inherited the rights to repayment. Some allegedly only learned of a relative's earlier death when the trustee reached out. By late 2025, around 19,500 of the 24,000 creditors had been repaid. In October 2025, the trustee extended the final deadline again, now to October 31st, 2026. Mt. Gox wallets still hold roughly 34,000 BTC, worth nearly $4 billion, awaiting distribution. If you held BTC on Mt. Gox in 2014, and you survived 11 years of legal limbo, and you're still alive, you might have just become a millionaire. Twice over. The whole process is the largest and longest cryptocurrency restitution in history, and it's still not finished. That's a wrap. $740 million buried under a future solar farm. $820 million frozen behind 2 password attempts. And 11 years of grief, finally returning as life-changing wealth. But not for everyone who started the wait. Crypto fortunes don't just disappear into wallets. They get lost in landfills, in encrypted USBs, in failed exchanges, sometimes for a decade, sometimes forever. The estimated value of all permanently lost Bitcoin? Around 100 billion US dollars. Out there, existing, forever inaccessible. Hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. We drop new episodes every week. We'll see you next time on C Daily Buzz.